We tested 20 bikes with travel ranging from 120 to 150 mil of travel and prices from £2,800 to £3,650 for this year's Trail Bike of the Year test. One of those bikes was the YT Jeffsy CF Pro 29, which came in at £3,499. Last year, the Jeffsy got a complete overhaul from YT, with the regular longer, lower and slacker treatment being put into effect. The other thing they did was increase the anti-squat in the rear suspension of their 140mm trail bike. YT offer the bikes in 29 and 650B sizes, however the 651 didn't get quite as much of a radical overhaul, and we reckon it's the 29er that most people will buy, hence getting this one into test. The carbon versions of the Jeffsy come with carbon front and rear, which is quite nice to see as many bikes split a carbon front with an alloy rear end. They've done some real nice touches to the bike as well. Take for example the short seat tube, which means sizing up is possible for shorter riders. You also get less shelving through the back end, so there's less places for mud to collect in mucky conditions. The cable routing is nice and neat with only one bolted attachment place, so it should in theory squeak less. And as with the 2S downhill bike, all the pivot bolts are located on one side of the bike, except of course the chainstay pivot because that's hidden by the wheel from the other side. But it does mean that maintenance should be pretty easy on the new Jeffsy. YT offer the Jeffsy in 5 sizes, from small to XXL. The size larger we had has really bang up to date geometry. It's got a 474mm reach, a 66.5 degree head angle, a 77.5 degree seat angle, so nice and steep. It's also real low. The seat tube is 435mm long, so you can get a really long drop in there or slam the seat and ride a longer frame than you might otherwise do. The chainstays are 435mm long on the small, medium and large, while the XL and the XXL get 440, so a touch longer to match the slightly longer front ends. YT give you a full carbon frame for the £3,499 bike, and it comes with some really good kit on there as well. There's a 140mm RockShox Pike RCT3 fork and a RockShox Deluxe RT3 rear shock, so these are both high-end items. There's a SRAM GX Eagle drivetrain with SRAM Guide RS brakes with 200mm rotors at the front and 180 at the back. The bike rolls on E13 kit. There's TRS Plus wheels and TRS Plus tyres front and rear. E13 also provide the TRS Plus dropper post with 150mm of drop, and that's attached to an SDG saddle. Finally, race face, turbine, bars and stem finish off the package. As you'd expect from a bike that's had the long, low and slack treatment, the current Jeffsy is very good down a hill. That length gives plenty of stability, it gives plenty of cornering prowess, the bike is nice and low so you can really push it into a corner. Overall, it's very, very capable in terms of its geometry. The suspension is also really good as well. It's not quite magic carpet in its smoothness, but it has plenty of small bump sensitivity, so plenty of grip. It has lots of mid-stroke support, so you can push it through a berm and into the lips of jumps, and there is plenty of control as you get towards the end of its travel as well. While the headlines might be that the Jeffsy's got longer, lower and slacker, the other thing that YT have done to the Jeffsy is increase the anti-squat in the rear suspension system. This means it's less prone to pedal bob. There's less sagging and wallowing into its stroke. This makes it more efficient, more effective and therefore easier to get to the top of the hills, even if the TRS Plus tyre on the back is really quite draggy. The bike feels much peppier in its acceleration, so it feels less of a drag on more mellow terrain. On those bigger, more intense trails where the surface might be loose or there's lots of big rocks and hits, the bike can absolutely plough through them. Okay, it's not an enduro bike, but for a trail bike it's incredibly confident. The thing that perhaps is more Marmite with this bike is those tyres. A lot of the testing we did in this bike was in the Welsh hillsides, so they're loamy, they're muddy, they're wet and rooty, and here the TRS Plus tyre is good in my opinion. It has a very pronounced shoulder made of quite a soft compound. You could feel the tyres deforming around the mud and the grit and really gripping onto the hillside, and this gave loads of confidence to push it into corners faster than you may otherwise have done. However, that soft compound on the shoulder does squirm on harder terrain, and so we found at our final testing grounds in Finale Ligure that over the rocks there was a little bit more squirming than we might have liked, and the tyres do definitely split opinions. Last year's Jeffsy won Trail Bike of the Year for one very good reason. It was an absolute blast to ride and everyone who tested it came away grinning. That was despite the fact that technically it probably wasn't the best bike in the test. Geometry-wise, it wasn't particularly forward-thinking. It wasn't using things like metric shocks or boost at the back. There's a few sort of technical details that could have been improved. And YT have addressed a number of these issues. In doing so, they've made it more capable, but I think they've also killed some of its character. And while it's now a hugely capable bike, more so than the previous version, it isn't as fun. Now you can't measure fun, so some people may want to disregard this. If you want a bike that's very good at getting down to the bottom of the hill, the Jeffsy is definitely well worth a look, especially considering its value. However, if you really value the character of a bike and how it feels on the trail, I still think the previous generation was a slightly better bike in that regard. That said, the Jeffsy has scored very well in this test and it did place right towards the top of our rankings because it's a very, very good bike. So if you are looking for an all-rounder trail bike that pedals well and still can descend incredibly, the Jeffsy is worth looking at. So as you might be able to tell, for me, fun isn't necessarily all about flat-out speed. It's about what you can do with the bike. Am I right or am I wrong? Let me know in the comments, and in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe.